Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Pepicast. Today with Luke McConaughey, who is the author of The Playbook, which is an excellent book on how to gamify your life. And I had Luke on the podcast around a year ago, and he was kind enough to come back to speak today about Notion, this fancy software that is catching a lot of attention. And it's a special episode because today is more an episode to watch on YouTube or elsewhere rather than just to listen. And today Luke is showing us how he put the playbook onto Notion and how we can use this software to really gamify your life and to put all your actions, things to do, movies to watch, and kind of how I see it is kind of this fancy, beautiful bullet journal, but in a digital way, and how to make it pleasant to use and also useful for you. So this one is to watch, and I hope you're gonna like it. I know I did, and I'm kind of excited to kind of play around and try it myself. So without further ado, I'll leave you to this episode. Enjoy. So we've been talking and trying to set it up for a little while. It took me, I think, three to 5 months to figure out how to put video on the podcast. And now we have screen sharing, so I don't know if we'll be able to manage, but you're here to talk about the playbook and Notion in the playbook and the playbook in Notion, and how we can have a better life, how we can play better the game of life with it. So I'm super excited and curious to hear what you have to show us today.
Yeah, it's been about a year since we last spoke. And in the last episode, we talked about my playbook project. Playbook is a strategy guide to the game of life. It's currently in beta as a PDF you can download. And it kind of uses a whole bunch of ideas from the world of gamification, taking game design concepts and applying them to things that aren't games. In this case, designing a lifestyle. So that's what we talked about last time. And I actually remember that I gave you some advice for a project you were working on at that time, which was building a website for skydiving.
Yes, and
how did that go?
I applied it, and I now have, thanks to you on my Google Keep, I have a little file called Quest. And every time I want to buy something, usually for me it's usually buying stuff or maybe playing games. I say, okay, how do I set it up on what type of work I have to do to earn that? And so that's super fun to do. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating because I'm taking 2 weeks and I want to buy it now, but I try to stick with it, and so that's a super cool addition. The second part is it works super well. I was able to really close a lot of doors that was open on this project. I still keep the principles because the gaming principles is just super effective. Once you find what works for you, whether it's the stick or the carrot, it's super fun to use. I really think after speaking with you, I realized that I was using the stick too much before, being like, oh, bad guy, you have to work 10 hours every day. And now I'm more into the carrots one and saying, okay, let's say you work only 1 or 2 hours and you can do just one thing. What would be the thing you can do? And actually, a guy from Y Combinator really helped me with that. He said, okay, as a developer, what I'm trying to do is thinking at the end of the day, what can I show? And I thought, okay, yeah, every day I'm thinking, okay, what can I show at the end of the day? And how can I reward myself? And also not to be too cruel when I lose, and have kind of my shit kit. That's a little bit of video games and a little bit of just having my best books and just chill in bed, crawl in bed, I would say. And so that's the super cool addition. So thanks to this episode, I have a better relationship with myself in terms of work, and that's really enjoyable. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, the stick is a tricky one because it's kind of difficult to enforce. I mean, uh, I think it's pretty difficult to have the self discipline to actually punish yourself for not following through on something. Uh, yeah, so the carrot kind of works better from a self discipline perspective, I think. So you mentioned the shit kit. So the shit kit was part of the playbook. Well, it still is part of the playbook, and it was a tool that you use when you kind of fall off the wagon. So one of the key ideas in playbook was that you're kind of designing for failure in a way. This year I've started calling it pandemic-proof goal setting. So the idea is you have to have a way to get back into the system if you get off track. And the shit kit was just, in my case, like a literal collection of physical things that I could in a little kit that I could look at or consume. You remember I had some chocolate, a little bit of whiskey, and a love letter to myself. Also, a to do list of like very low energy tasks that I could use to try and kind of interrupt the pattern I was in, or just do some self care, you know. And then hopefully that would change my mood enough to get back on the train. So yeah, the playbook had a few concepts like this, the shit kit, and some other things like uh, we talked about last time, having a quest dashboard with everything on one page in front of you, including a progress bar, so you can get a sense of where you're at and feel like you're progressing, and also try to connect it with some higher vision for yourself, some higher story, a kind of heroic journey, preferably, and have all this in front of you on one page. Finally, just for those who are wondering who I am, for those who came in late, I'm Luke Mack, a graphic designer based in Sydney, and I'm on this productivity quest that started quite a long time ago. And the playbook was the latest iteration in that quest. And recently, I've started using this app Notion a lot, and that's kind of become where my playbook lives. So playbook has gone digital for me. I still use the same kind of principles. So today in this chat, I wanted to show you my Notion workspace and how those playbook principles have carried across into Notion. The idea is that I've kind of built a life app, if you will, and it's using those same ideas from the playbook world that we just saw, making feedback immediate and emotional by putting it in front of you on one page, using things like progress bars and points to track progress. And yeah, I've moved that into the playbook, the Notion realm. So that's what I wanted to talk about today.
Cool. Let's go.
Cool. So I first used Notion last year. A friend of mine called Dave introduced me to Notion, and he was extremely excited. He tends to get excited a lot, actually. But he was convinced that Notion was a total game changer. So David and I both have this interest in productivity. It sounds kind of boring when you say it that way, like we're interested in productivity. I guess we're not really interested in productivity. We're interested in living awesome, interesting lives and being free to do what we want and create our own journeys. And as you know from last time, even when I was a kid, I was interested in trying to build like a structure for myself, to build a timetable that would support me in getting more play out of playtime. Obviously, when I was 7, I didn't know the word productivity or gamification, and I wasn't thinking in those terms. I just wanted to get more out of playtime. I was on school holidays, and I built this kind of calendar for myself where I had like work time and playtime. But work time was just like the work was building Lego. That was my work. That was my job that I gave myself. David is similar to me, and he shares my interest in this world. So he was super excited about Notion. He came to me and said, "This is a total game changer." And honestly, I opened it up and I was like, "Oh yeah, that looks kind of cool," but I didn't use it for ages. So I didn't share David's enthusiasm with Notion. Partly it's because I had the playbook already, so I already had my system and it was working for me. And partly because there's kind of there's a little bit of a learning curve with Notion. But I think the learning curve is just that Notion is kind of a new thing, so it's hard to explain the value of it. So I think the learning curve is not massive, and I can explain Notion a little bit today, and hopefully that will flatten the curve, if you'll pardon the expression. So we'll get to how Notion works in a little bit, but first, I just wanted to share one more thing. So it says, "My personal curse is the knowledge that I function best with a rigid structure and strict routine, but am almost totally incapable of independently establishing or maintaining that structure and routine." And someone has added, "Don't forget this special feature. At the same time, hating when people tell you what to do."
This is so true. This is so true.
Yeah, I just found this the other day, and it's very on point for what we're going to talk about, because in a way, what I'm trying to do is impose this structure on myself, and it's me telling myself what to do. So it kind of gets around. It's like a loophole. It gets around the hating being told what to do, because I'm telling myself to do it. And as we mentioned last year, Jordan Peterson talks about making a damn schedule, because he likes saying damn a lot. And he makes the point, you're not trying to put yourself in a cage. You're designing the kind of life you want. You're trying to give yourself the best by providing what you need. But now I'm totally sold on Notion, and I use it all the time, and I use it for lots of different apps. So I guess to start with, I can talk a little bit about what Notion is, and hopefully that'll help people kind of understand it when they see it. Notion is a cross-platform app, and it's kind of the idea is that it's an all-in-one workspace. So in a way, it's similar to Evernote. It's a place to store information of different formats. So that's the basic idea of Notion. And the promise is that it can replace several apps at once, in fact. So it can replace Evernote because it has a system of storing pages inside each other, which can be used for knowledge storage and personal knowledge management. And it also has databases, as you alluded to, so you can use that to link things together and have a bit more functionality. And of course, you can store multimedia as well. Like you can embed videos and images. You can link to URLs. You can link to files on a desktop as well, or on a hard drive rather. So that's the basic idea of Notion. And it's organized as a bunch of blocks in pages. And so blocks can be anything like can be the text, a paragraph, a bullet point, a numbered list, the usual kind of word processing items. There's 3 levels of headings, and you can do some basic styling as well, like bold, underline, italic, highlighting, the usual kind of stuff. Okay, so far so good, pretty simple. What makes it special? So I think the way to think of Notion in terms of why it's powerful is that it's more like an app maker than an app. So you can kind of customize, like you can set it up how you want, and you can go pretty deep in that. Like you can do simple formulas inside the databases, and you can go a bit mental actually. And there's plenty of examples online with various Notion gurus like August Bradley, Marie Poulin, William Nutt, and a few other people who are kind of leading the charge in just building really insane setups in Notion. And I think that puts people off because these people are really hardcore and they've built very pretty Notion workspaces over a long time. And maybe that's a bit daunting. I have some kind of beginner tips for people who want to try Notion. And if you're curious about it, you should try it because it's free. It's fully featured with the free account. You can upgrade to Notion Pro for extra stuff, but you never need to. I haven't. And my space is pretty elaborate. So, so sorry for the excessive foreplay, but I think it's necessary in this case. Having said that, I think we're almost ready to jump in and just have a little tour of my space. I might show you one more thing before we do that, and then I promise we'll jump in. I was kind of building this system since I was about 7, and it culminated in Playbook, and so I had this big structure I wanted to move into Notion. So what I did is kind of draw out my system. I drew a flowchart, and this is what it looks like. I drew this in an app called Whimsical. The trick is to not just to be organized or not even to be productive, but to go after what you want. I want to keep underscoring that point because especially for me, I'm using Notion for a whole bunch of things all at once, which is another cool thing about Notion. You kind of can use it to replace lots of apps all at once. In fact, that's one of the key kind of selling points that the Notion company pushes. I wanted to just very quickly show you this at a higher level so that when we jump into Notion, then you'll see it represented in Notion. And you might see a bit of the playbook here as well. So, firstly, if you can see my cursor, I don't know if you can. So we have dashboards in this gold color. Dashboards are a big part of the playbook. In Notion, I like to kind of have dashboards that give you nice, elegant views into all the data. So we have lots of databases in Notion, but mostly I'm just hanging out in the dashboards. Now, the word database might be a bit intimidating to Notion newbies as well. I come from an IT background, so the word database doesn't really scare me. But actually, a database is nothing. It's just a fancy word for a table in a way. For example, going back to our to-do list idea, you might have a database in Notion that is your to-do list. And the records include a checkbox, which is done or not done, and the name of the task, and then you might add some other things. So this is kind of a whirlwind tour. There's a lot of detail here, but don't worry about it too much. I just wanted to give you the kind of gist of how I've organized my Notion space. So I'm using it for a few different things, as I said. Knowledge kind of storage and personal knowledge management. That corresponds to this vaults area. I'm using it for journaling and kind of reviewing and tracking stuff, and that's this area. I guess the main point is once you get your head around what Notion is, like if you're just starting to use it, of course, have a play, jump in, make some stuff, delete some stuff, fix some stuff, maybe download templates, get your head around the app. But then I do recommend drawing something out. and it doesn't have to be in whimsical like this. It doesn't have to be pretty, but that's a definite beginner tip. Draw your plan. All right. So enough chit chat. This is what Notion looks like. So Notion basics. On the left, here are all my pages and databases. And then some of these pages or databases have stuff inside them as well. You can, actually Compass is empty. It has nothing inside. That has some things. Yeah. There's also some favorites at the top. So you can just drag things up there to have shortcuts to them. Inbox. Inbox is your classic GTD style inbox. This is a place where I just put random thoughts. And the idea is that I put them there to review later. So this is a kind of good technique for staying on track when you're doing tasks. If I remember something I have to do, I usually don't do it straight away unless it's like a 2-minute task. I just throw it in inbox. Even just random thoughts, a lot of which I just delete later when I review them, end up here. Scratchpad is just my place. Actually, we can jump into here. This is just like a mess of random Notion experiments, basically. Just like trying to format things, seeing what looks cool. This is like a definite beginner tip as well. So beginner tip number 1, draw what you want to make. Beginner tip 2, have like a lab or a scratch pad or somewhere just to like make a mess, so you can like quickly try little things out. So yeah, there's nothing really special in there. Important bits, like top secret banking information and stuff that I need to like copy paste to documents or websites all the time. So I can't click into there. Calendar links to my task database. Now, this is one of the powerful features of Notion, actually. I will just jump into my task database. It's called Actions here. You can see it here. As I was saying, a cool feature of Notion, and a very powerful one, is that you can have lots of different views into one database. Okay, so Actions is all of my tasks, and this is unfiltered. I'm never in here because it's just massive, it's a mess, it's overwhelming, and that's not really helpful to have just an infinite to-do list that goes on for pages. Pretty typical fields, I guess, for a task list. There's done or not done, and the name, as we talked about. The context, I mentioned. There's a few different contexts. Actually, if I click into one, so this is a work. So this is an invoice I have to send. So here are some contexts. Anyone who knows GTD or Playbook, which is heavily influenced by GTD, will recognize some of these. I've set it up so these green ones are physical contexts. These pink ones are energy contexts. So zombie mode is low energy tasks when you just can't be bothered, but okay, maybe you can do like one more thing and then eat ice cream, you know. Whereas deep work, this is going to be hard to do. You need to dedicate time, close your door, turn off like all your apps. Work and play, inbox. I'm not really using anymore actually, but that was for kind of new ideas that need to be categorized. Now I just categorize them straight away. Airplane, this is a special one I'm playing with for when I'm going on long trips. Funnily enough, I haven't used that one this year.
Yeah, and GTD getting things done for people who are not familiar with it.
Yes, the getting things done methodology. Highly recommended. Then we have links to projects, links to a habit associated with this. We'll get to that. That's an interesting one. The due date. So this is when I'm going to do it. It might be the deadline or it might be when I've scheduled it for. The key point here is that this is a database. It's just a table. and each row of a database can actually be a page. So this task here, packing and planning, I can go into that, and it's just a normal page like any page, except that it has all the fields of the database. Okay, so at the moment it's empty. These are some templates which we'll get to later. But the important thing is, if you want, you can make this just a populated page with all the usual blocks. They can be headings, they can be columns, they can be embedded images. Okay, so yeah, don't think of databases as mysterious. Again, they're just a table of records, and each record is actually like a page, except that it has these custom fields. Now, if you'll recall, I was showing you this just to show you a really cool feature of Notion, probably like the most useful feature, which is that we have this database now, and you can go into it and it looks like a table, but you can pull in this same data into what's called a linked database, and you can use filters and even change how it looks completely. So this calendar here is a good example of this. If we go into this, exactly the same database that we were just looking at, it's just reimagined as a calendar. In fact, you can even just like drag things around, so that's kind of cool. So this is one I missed. I haven't done that yet, so I might even just do that tomorrow. Just chuck that there so I remember it. Let me just run through the rest of Mission Control. Weekend is another dashboard. This is like the fun dashboard. So planning is just things I want to do on weekends coming up. There's nothing super special in there. It's just like some ideas. So that's not linked to anything. That's nothing super technical. Sofa. So this is like games and TV that I want to consume. So these are all the TV shows I want to watch or am in the middle of at the moment. So if I'm ever just free on the weekend, I might open this up and decide what to do from here. Conscious chill. You might remember this term from last time. So the idea here is that rest is important, but deliberate rest, not just like getting burnt out at work so you go on your phone or like have a bit too much to drink on a Tuesday night or whatever. All right. Final big dashboard is Insights. Insights is my dashboard that looks into all of the knowledge storage kind of section. So if you look over here, I have this collection under vaults. I call it vaults. That's just I stole that word from August Bradley, this Notion guru I mentioned. He calls all of like the knowledge kind of databases vaults. So that's as opposed to these databases here, which are more like moving targets, like actions move around, they get done, they get not done, projects get finished. So this is kind of like a project management section here. Pillars and pipeline, they're also words he uses. And vaults is more like the static stuff. So there's topics, there's thoughts, there's resources. Media is kind of notes I take on things I consume, whereas resources is like original stuff I make, like a checklist or, any original work. Bit of a quote collection. People I know, this is like a CRM, and companies, which I guess this is actually related to people. You can link them if they work for a company. Projects can also be linked to companies if they have a client, like if it's a client project for my graphic design business. But again, like there's so much information here. When is it relevant? How is it relevant? Well, the dashboard tries to kind of solve that. So we have topics. These are the hot topics. So these are topics where either I've designated them as important, or this is where it gets a bit dynamic. They might have a project that's active, that's connected to this topic. So Notion's a hot topic at the moment because I have the project of this podcast that we're doing. So it surfaces as a hot topic. The way this looks, so this is called a gallery. But again, it's just a different way of visualizing a database. All databases in Notion are the same, and they can look like this, or they can look like what we saw earlier with the tables, or they can look like the calendar. And there's other options. But this is what the gallery looks like. And I guess the idea is you would have kind of pictures. But I also like to just have these cards. I think it looks kind of cool. So this is the topics gallery. This is just a view into the topics database. So Notion is a hot topic. And this is just like any database. Each of these things has all the fields that everything from that database has. And then you can just add anything you want here, just like any page. You can add, maybe make a title. That's a little shortcut you can use to make a heading. There's a few different types. There's a lot of these nice markdown shortcuts in Notion. If you do a dash space, you get a bullet point. So just like any page. But when you have an empty page, Notion suggests templates, which I've set up. So I've made this template called topic. And so the ultimate idea with this section, this whole insight section here, is to have all of these topics kind of built out with this template. And it just presents it in a nicer way than kind of like digging through this stuff. So this is the Notion topic. We have quotes related to Notion. We have resources related to Notion. We have media related to Notion. Again, these are all just views into the databases we've seen. Over time, as I add more media and resources to Notion, I think these will be really useful. If I ever want to, for example, write an article about Notion, or I want to just know something particular about Notion for a new project, I'll be able to go into here and kind of look at my combined knowledge that I've accumulated over months or years. So yeah, that's the main idea of this insights.
I think it's super cool because as we are now more and more knowledge workers, how you organize your knowledge, how you enrich it, and how you can reference it later, I think it's super useful. And that's where we struggle a lot, because we have, I remember something, I'm not so sure, there was this video, I cannot find it again and stuff. And so to have it for your future self, I think is super useful. Yeah.
They're the key parts of mission control. Review is the kind of a whole other section in GTD and in many kind of approaches to productivity. Actually, having a review system is really important. Just some way of checking in with your goals or your values or your vision or your inboxes, whether that means your emails or otherwise, or your notepad even. Just doing that on the regular, can be weekly, can be fortnightly.
I think it's one of the key things that comes back. Like when you learn, you need to do feedback all the time to make sure that you know the things you think you know, and for productivity as well, like getting things done was like capture everything, but also review, because if you don't review the stuff you have, then you're just running in circles all the time. You don't know why you're in the same circle all the time. Whereas if you can review stuff, it's it's a superpower in a way, I think.
Absolutely. So let's go into the dashboard that I'm using the most, though. Let's circle back to Horizon Zero. So Horizon Zero is just a GTD term. I could have called it daily dashboard or daily actions or anything like that. But yeah, Horizon Zero is just, having read GTD, this means something to me. But again, this could just be daily action zone, for example, which is actually what August Bradley calls his. I took a lot of inspiration from August Bradley, as you can probably tell, in terms of Notion land. So let's I'll just go through these one by one. Okay, so these triangles, by the way, are toggles. So in Notion, you can set up little toggles, and I make a lot of use of them, actually. So the key thing on this page is the actions and habits, and everything else is tucked away in a toggle that I can kind of open if I want to. But yeah, let's start with this toggle here. So if I open this, inbox and today's notes, again, it's just more linked databases, more views into other databases. All right, so inbox is just a super simple table. I think there's only one field. Yeah, so it's just a table with one field. And this is just a dumping ground for any random idea that I have. Can be something I have to do, can just be like well, there are some examples here. So usually every Monday morning, I clear this out, and it's Sunday night here in Sydney. So I have quite a few. Some weeks I have more than this, some weeks I have less. But it's just anything random. It could just be like a weird thought or like something I have to do. So just the first few examples. All right, so what's this one? There is no necessity to represent the self in the midst of conscious experience. This is a quote from Sam Harris that I heard in an interview with him. Thought it was really cool, really profound, so I wrote it down. So maybe when I get to review this, I'll put this in my quote collection. Or maybe I'll be like, why did I write that down? That's like, what does that even mean? And I'll delete it. At the start of the day, I make a new day. And I have a template here called Daily Journal. So that'll spin up. Okay, I have two sections, good morning, good evening. And I have shortcuts to my morning routine. So if I want to remember, I try and go through this process, get up at the same time with alarm, no snooze, maybe electrocuting myself in the process, have a short cold shower. I'm really into cold showers now, by the way. This is my latest experiment. It's going well, actually. This is actually something that's much easier than getting up, believe it or not. All right, anyway, so there's a little reminder of my morning routine. Then I try and have a gratitude practice, try and think about what would make today awesome. And I have a do not do list. So this is kind of as important as a to-do list sometimes. And I might just, like, if I feel like it, write some thoughts down. Good evening, maybe I'll write some thoughts down again, maybe not. But also in the evening, I fill these out. So I name the day with stuff that happened, just kind of like highlights. Something good that happened, something bad that happened, whatever I'm feeling. And this is another select list. Here are some feelings. Of course, I add more whenever I need to. And I give the day a score out of 5. And let's say I give it 3 stars out of 5. I have a formula actually to turn it into a little star rating. So that's 3 cool guys, or sometimes it's 5 unicorns, 4 fires, 2 sad guys, or 1 shit. so, so that's just a very quick rundown of my journaling practice. And so that lives here. That's all here. I tuck that away, and then I get on with the things that are due today. So as you can see, there's nothing left today, which is good because it's 9 p.m. on Sunday night. So I'm glad I have nothing to do after this call. Now, habits. This is maybe a little bit advanced because there's some formulas going on with habits. But I guess I can talk you through this quickly just to give you a taste of what's possible in Notion. So habits is another database. You can see it here. And habits are essentially a recurring action. That's really what a habit is when you think about it. So the idea of these habits is that how I set it up is any action can be part of a bigger habit. So actually, this is a good example because I have here gym. So this is showing habits that are due and overdue at gym, and it also says that I'm off track, which means I'm below my habit frequency for gym. And gym just means any physical activity, not necessarily like a high intensity workout at the gym. Now, I did go for a run earlier, actually. So I'm just gonna make a record of that. So I'm using my actions both to track habits and also just to do one-offs. Anyway, here's a new. Okay, so I went for a lake run today. I run along the lakeside. And I've already done that, but I'm just kind of flagging that I did this habit today to satisfy my my notifications here. Yeah, this is going to be maybe a bit confusing, but again, I just want to give you a taste of something you can do in Notion that's kind of cool. So the way I've done habits, I wanted them really easy to log because I hate habit tracking. I've never been good at it, but I do want to, watch myself with my good habits. And so I've made a template for every single habit that I'm tracking at the moment. So I meditated, I stretched, I worked out. That's the one we want. That's related to the gym habit. Okay, so this template is very simple. It didn't add any info here, but it populated some of these fields. Okay, status is recurring. It just puts that on all the habits. Project. This is not related to a bigger project. It's just like a lifelong thing. If I wanted, I could add some more information here, like a link if that's relevant, but that's all good. The key thing is that it's related to this habit, gym. And also, usually when I'm using these templates, I'm just logging a habit I've already done, so it's ticked done for me. I could untick that if I'm saying I'm going to run later, but that's fine. I want it ticked. Okay, so I've made this, and it's instantly removed itself from this list because it's done. This is only showing not done. And you can see that also now I'm not getting this alert. So that's the gym is done for the day. It's not due anymore. Finally, these are just kind of nice things to have handy. So I don't go into these much, but planning is just for looking ahead a little bit. So if we go into here, we'll see again, yet another view into this same actions database, but this time it's looking for everything that's due in the week ahead. So these are things that are coming up this week. I also have this little suggested, like this is kind of a suggestion for people that I haven't contacted in a while. So this is my CRM setup. Well, for example, so if we go into this first entry here, Yoni. So Yoni's a friend of mine, and it's really chugging a little bit now. Yoni's a friend of mine, and just like everyone that's appearing in this view, I haven't contacted him for a while, and in fact, it's kind of like the habit setup in a way. So the frequency I want to contact him with is monthly, and last touched. So the last time I kind of contacted him in any sense was a month ago. So now he's due for a contact. I can use this space again, just like any database. This is just like another page in Notion. So I can use this space to make special notes about, for example, things I wanted to ask him about next time I see him, or notes about maybe when his birthday is, or if I wanted to kind of get like really kind of detailed and kind of work the charm, I could write down some, his children's names, or details for next networking drinks, that kind of thing. For most of these entries, this bit's just empty, except for some notes about things I want to follow up with them. And I have quite a lot of templates for the CRM. But this is only because I wanted quick ways to get like all these different emojis. So I try and pick an emoji that kind of looks like the person. But that's all those do. They just allocate an emoji to the page. Yoni looks nothing like this, to be honest. I guess I could get really crazy and add like full pictures and covers and make it pretty. My Notion is very minimal because I don't want to spend too much time on it. I want to get back to being awesome. Yeah, you've seen bits and pieces of all the databases, but in practice, I spend 90% of my time just on this daily action page. And every now and then, when I need to, I'll just jump into one of these other main dashboards. Or I just use the Notion has pretty good search functionality as well, similar to Evernote. So there you can just I just hit a shortcut to search, and then I can just grab stuff from there. So that's kind of how I use Notion. A few things to be aware of, like the reason I have Playbook, and now I have kind of the Notion edition of Playbook, I guess, is that this I know that I benefit from this structure. It's like that that Twitter post I showed earlier. There is like benefits to having a structure that you design for yourself that supports you. Basically, the main things I get out of it are clarity, so knowing what I'm going after. Also, just effectiveness, so just being able to collect all those thoughts and leverage and find them when I need them. And also motivation, so being able to see if my habits are on track, and also kind of accumulating points, which I alluded to earlier, and I'll show you in a sec. Again, you can go really hardcore with gamification in Notion. And there's a guy called Conrad Lin that I haven't mentioned yet. He's another one of the Notion gurus, and he's really like turned his Notion space into a video game, like 100%. There's points and leveling up, and yeah, it's really mental and quite impressive. Now, I haven't really done anything too crazy. All I've done is I mentioned this wanted database earlier. So if I jump into that, this is literally just things I want to buy, basically. A mix of a whole bunch of things. There's some clothes there. There's items. I want to get a PS5. I want to get this Muse thing, which is like it's meant to help you meditate. You put it on your head and it does something to your brain. It's a bit freaky, to be honest, but I'm kind of curious. what? As long as I'm electrocuting myself, I may as well just expose myself to other weird technologies. You can see down the bottom. There's a bunch of video games I want to get as well. So what I've done here is I have a system where I can buy these things with points. And how do I get points? I finish projects. I finish quests. So yeah, to set this up, it just takes a few different databases, which are all in this motivation section here. Places is going to be places I want to go, similar to your friends' restaurants. But I haven't populated that yet. But I like the idea. So that's actually where I'm taking that. Now, so we have loot, and then we have avatars. Avatars only has one record in it. I guess if you had multiple users, you could have multiple players, which is what Conrad Lind does actually. But I just need this one record just to tie everything together, because this is done by linking databases together. So these are the kinds of loot in the game: small, medium, large, epic, and tiny, which should be before small, but it doesn't really matter what order they're linked in. I've earned 196 points in my Notion career. Currently, I have 16 left because I've spent the other ones. And this formula is just to present that in plain English. Now, the loot layer is just kind of to simplify the points, because originally I just had different points for different projects, but it's annoying actually to kind of think about exactly how many points each project should be worth. So I just called it I just decided there's going to be 5 types of projects, tiny through to epic. So we have avatars, we have loot, we have wanted. Wanted is linked to loot so that it knows how big a reward it is. And projects is also linked to loot, so we know how big the project is and how many points we'll get for it. So those 1, 2, 3, 4 databases are linked in different ways. And that all comes together. If I was to go into weekend, my weekend dashboard, you might recall that I have a shopping toggle. Oh yeah, this is where I moved the display. But it's essentially what you just saw, just in a nice gallery kind of view. So there it is. So I know how many points I have to spend. And maybe on the weekend I decide to buy some stuff, and I can spend my points and reward myself. Yeah, it's been a real whirlwind tour of my space. And you can see maybe why Dave got sick of it, because this can take a while to set up, and while you're setting it up, you're not really getting any value from it. However, the good news is that remember that I'm doing like a whole bunch of things at once and spending a lot of time on it, and you don't have to do that. You can very quickly jump into Notion, set up some pages, get your really important info in one place, and your to-do list, or like several to-do lists. You can merge them into a database and use filters. You can do that very quickly. You can do that in 10 minutes even, if you just want like a simple setup, and then you can build on that over time. So, so some friends of mine were asking, how long it takes to set this up, and it really depends on what you want to do with it. But I can tell you what my approach was, which was initially I did take time out because I knew I wanted to build like a big setup, and I wanted to set aside time to do that. So I actually took a weekend and just very single-mindedly worked on it. I drew that diagram, and then I well, before that, I just was playing with Notion to figure it out. But then I took this weekend to draw a diagram and set up the main databases. And now I just kind of add to it every now and then. I may make little refinements over time. They've probably added up to quite a long time at this point, like maybe tens of hours. But they're just like little bits and pieces when I have time. So you don't have to go mental like that. So I've called this whole project Muse OS. There it is on my whimsical flowchart up in the corner. So yeah, as dry as this might seem when you're looking at the technical details, it's kind of like the playbook way of remembering that this is kind of it's part of a higher level story, a hero's journey, if you will. And essentially, I wanted to build a system that's kind of like a muse to me. A muse like who puts me in touch with my best ideas and my intuition and guides me in what I need to do and kind of pushes me towards the best actions. So that's kind of like my nod to the playbook idea of having this like mythical narrative, this hero's journey.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching and listening. If you have any suggestions on people to talk to, topics to explore, or ways to make this podcast and these videos better, just let me know on Instagram. It's pepicast. The link is in the description. You have my Twitter as well and my email gael.gendre@gmail.com also in the description. So let me know and have a great day. Bye.